lot of these body language people are just make it up. They commit what I call narrative negligence, where they just spin a narrative around behavior. But the truth is, we're all doing that every single second. That's why if you ever hear like something like 33% of humans, that's just the best way to say it.
Yeah.
93% of communication is nonverbal. Nope, never was. Like all of those things. 66% of the time, somebody's gonna do this. Nope. It's how you know it's none of it means anything. What you need to understand is your own filter, your own bias, your own perceptions. Labels are probably the most helpful and the most destructive thing in personal development and growth. You have no idea the labels that you use to describe yourself can be so easily manipulated. So if it's example, if I'm working with someone and they're like, I'm a real introvert, and I'm like, okay, so you won't like this role or you won't like that role. And I know that because I'm keeping them there because those roles pay more. You're just exposing how to play yourself. It's hard to, when people ask you like your story and then like those thought leaders are like, when I was 15, I don't think life works like that. It's like a series of a bunch of different cool events that come together. I had one frustration. I was in grad school and I wanted to do this study and I was playing poker at the time and I was doing pretty well. And I wanted to basically use the poker money to pay for the study. And they were like, you can't, you have to go through a grant process. And I was like, okay, so what's the grant process like? And it's like, it's going to take like 6 weeks to submit it and all this stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, but it's $5,000. Like I can pay for this right now. And they were like, no, you can't. And I remember not liking no and not, as I was always entrepreneurial minded. I always had side hustles and I was like, I used to resell PlayStations when I was a kid. And I did so many hustles, some things that were like borderline illegal that I probably shouldn't talk about, like all this stuff. But I don't like red tape. And I think all entrepreneurs don't like red tape. And I saw academic researchers like, this is insane that it's this slow and you have to go through all these hoops. So I was just like, fuck it, I want to do it my own. And I did, the first study we did was part of this thing called First Date Files. And I rented out a restaurant in New York. Fun fact, they never charged me for whatever reason. So I rented out this restaurant and I set up blind dates and I recorded them from multiple angles. And this was like 18 years ago or something like that.
Wow.
It was a long time ago. And I recorded it, broke it down, and I was like, oh, this is pretty fascinating. And then I'm just obsessive, and I've always been, I get obsessed with things and I get bored. It's impossible to do that with people. They're just so inherently complex. So I started exposing all these other areas, and then I did the poker study, and I did a lot of like consulting work, and I just have always been very just fascinated and interested in it and just won't go away.
What did you guys find in the blind date study?
Just people, actually a couple things. One, the date that most people think wasn't a good date was the best date. And the reason why is they had a lot of awkward moments. They had all these things, but it was a deeper conversation and not that surface. I mean, sort of reinforced the classical things about men that they over-index on attractiveness. And really the more dynamic date, the better the date. So the less standard back and forth question, the more that they went into different rabbit holes and more connections was easier. Honestly, though, what I learned the most though was not from the study. It was showing clips and the dates to people for 10 years and seeing how what they think of the date is so off. Like, oh, I would never do that. Or, oh, like there's this one person where, the girl she's got a smile that's a little sultry. Like she has like this down gaze and she's like smiling. Like, oh, she likes him. It's just her smile. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting down with her and showing her, and I'm like, your smile is extremely like, she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, wait. She's like, yeah, like men are always a problem for me. And I'm looking at her and is she full of shit right now? Or she was 100% honest. She was like, I feel uncomfortable, all these guys, like it's been a thing since I'm in high school. So somehow, and it was just, she would look down and smirk in a way that looked very like sultry, like, and she had no idea. No idea at all. And it was genuine.
And we all have these like
all these things,
nonverbal biases and cues that we develop programming wherever it shows up. Right?
It's all from our social origin story. It's all from early childhood. Usually what happens is everybody uses the word trauma, and I've seen things that are not trauma, that are just small things. So for example, for me, mine was like dancing. I remember when I was like 12, I went to like school dance and this girl laughed at me. I was like, no one's ever going to laugh at me again. And I didn't like dancing. I still don't to this day because of that reason. And it wasn't like I went home and cried, but I made a decision that this was never going to happen again. And
Right.
I think a lot of things fall along that line.
Why do you think we have to give everything these labels, like trauma?
Ugh. Labels are probably can be the most helpful and the most destructive thing in personal development and growth, right? So on the one hand, being able to contextualize and give language to your experience allows you to navigate a space. Totally get that. On the other hand, once you get a label, you tend to make an excuse that you're that label and you can never step outside of that label. And I fundamentally don't believe in that. And what I really don't like is when people give very strong, impactful labels to people without understanding them. Like the amount of times I've heard people say, my ex is a narcissist, when they don't understand the clinical definition or all the aspects of narcissism, or what I went to school for, like psychopathy and forensic psychology. You know how many times I've heard people say that, like, oh, that person's a psychopath or a sociopath? I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like I went to school for that. I was like, know the measures. I know how to go, this person's not a psychopath. What are you saying?
Right.
Maybe they have traits of psychopathy like everybody, but that's not what this person is. When you say someone's a psychopath or a sociopath in the workplace, good luck having connection. And it's just very hard. So I think our labels that we use to describe ourselves, I mean, I'll announce it here. I have like 2.5 hour video about introversion and extroversion, the history of it, understanding it at a deeper level. I fundamentally don't really believe in it. I believe in extroversion, introversion on the polarities, but most people are just somewhere in the middle, but they are told that you're an introvert because they took some online tests or there's somebody said that their traits are introverted. The truth is introversion as a psychological domain. You know something interesting? So what do you think the definition of introversion and extroversion is?
I mean, for me, an introvert is somebody that doesn't like to talk to people and wants to be with themselves. An extrovert is somebody that gets energy from other people and wants to be life party.
So this whole like energy thesis, I'm having a hard time understanding where it came from. So it's not in the academic, like the first sort of defined criteria is this Eisenach's personality inventory that creates like stable introvert, unstable introvert, which is very helpful. Stable extrovert, unstable extrovert. There's Jungian references. Like it's in the culture, but this whole energy thing has become like a cultural narrative that hasn't become anything. So let's just say energy. Who the hell knows what energy even means, right? Energy. But let's say introverts walk into a room and they feel depleted.
Mm-hmm.
Extroverts walk into a room and feel empowered and energy. So from a classical sense, I am an extrovert. If I was tired and didn't sleep and felt like shit and came into this podcast, all of you give me energy, right? Yeah. Now, we can take this energy hypothesis and say that certain people are like sucking energy or whatever, or we can say that introverts, when they walk into a room, are maybe having certain problems. They have a difficult time filtering information. There's a lot of sounds and they have to focus, and that's what takes energy. So I think energy is just people skills. It's some people are comfortable with people and therefore they get the human connection and other people aren't. And I think by labeling yourself an introvert, you're not being able to do the underlying work that is required to get you to have full happiness and joy with people. Because this whole thing, all this research is done about longevity and we need people and so on and so forth, but only if it's good interactions.
Yeah.
Right? If you're stressed and chronically anxious and worried and concerned about every damn room you walk into, that's not increasing longevity. It's massively decreasing it. So just like, oh, social interactions are good, not necessarily. It's the type of interactions. And I think that the whole introversion conversation, for some people, it doesn't do them justice. And there's so much more than that label. And they could be anything that they want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to push that message.
The way you get to the life you desire is by getting in rooms you don't think you deserve to be into. And this is an opportunity for you to get into a room that most oftentimes in the year you will not have the ability to get into. The Austin Entrepreneurial Summit powered by Gobundance is the only time we open the doors of Gobundance to the public. This event is packed with some powerful speakers and incredible people from the Gobundance community that will pour into you on your journey of success and help you achieve the life you desire. Service is the Trojan horse to knowledge, and if you want the opportunity to take your life to the next level, do yourself a service and sign up for this event. See you in Austin in May. You've done it all. You've built the business. You've made the money. You conquered the grind. You're the lone wolf, and yeah, that got you here. but let's be real, it won't take you to the next level. The truth, most successful people don't hunt alone. They join a tribe, a network of elite entrepreneurs, investors, or leaders who challenge them, push them, and hold them accountable to their biggest goals. Gobundance is that tribe. Extreme accountability, real wealth building, life-changing adventure, and a brotherhood who refuses to let each other play small. So here's the challenge. Stay the lone wolf or run with the pack. The right tribe changes everything. Find a link in the description. Apply today. This episode is brought to you by Loletta Birnbaum, LLC, doing business justice. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, real estate investor, or a combination of each, you know how critical it is to have trusted legal advisors on your team. Loletta Birnbaum has built a stellar reputation providing exceptional legal services that make a difference. As a national business law firm, Loletta Birnbaum provides a wide variety of legal services, including general corporate, contract negotiations, mergers and acquisitions, succession planning, intellectual property, commercial litigation, shareholder disputes, real estate, and employment. Whether you're navigating a complex business deal, resolving disputes, or protecting your brand, their team delivers practical, results-driven legal solutions tailored to your goals. For inquiries, Gobundance members should email Loletta Birnbaum at gobundance@loletta.com. That's LAULETTA.com. You can also visit their website at www.lauletta.com to learn more about how they can do your business justice. What's slowing your business down? Is it endless emails, scheduling headaches, repetitive tasks that steal your time? My Outdesk has your solution. Their experienced global virtual assistants handle the busy work so you can focus on strategy, growth, and whatever matters to you most. From administrative support to marketing and customer service, they've got you covered at a fraction of the cost of hiring in-house. Scale smarter, save bigger, get the support you need today at My Outdesk. I believe in manipulation. We talked a little bit about this prior to this starting, but I'm a big believer in the art of manipulation. And so I'm always using labels that have been given to me as a source for good for me. Like, how can I use this label?
Labels are the single easiest path towards manipulating a person. It's so easy. So if somebody goes to me and says, I'm an INFTJ, and they say like, and I know, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. They really believe in the Myers-Briggs. Yeah. I understand the mechanics of Myers. I don't believe in it, but now I know how to speak to that person.
Right.
And I can easily say, yeah, you know what? I saw a little bit of that. Oh yeah, you know me. Yeah. And now they think that I'm a fan. You have no idea the labels that you use to describe yourself can be so easily manipulated. So if I'm working with someone and they're like, I'm a real introvert, and I'm like, okay, so you won't like this role or you won't like that role. And I know that because I'm keeping them there because those roles pay more. You're just exposing how to play yourself. I mean, it's a joke.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people label me as an introvert. And generally speaking, I am not super social. But what people don't understand is I don't like small talk. I actually really like conversation, like deep, meaningful conversation. I will stay up all night and talk. But sitting by a bonfire and shooting the shit, like I'm going to bed because I don't like the small talk. So I've used that label that's been given to me so generously and so kindly as a way to say, yeah, I don't want to go to that party tonight. I'm an introvert.
Exactly.
I'm feeling a little drained.
Yeah. You just want, and nobody likes those kind of conversations. And then what happens is you have a narrative that this place that we go to is going to be the kind of place where there's small talk. So I don't want to do that versus just like taking control of it. And like, I'm not doing the small talk thing. Let's go deep.
Yeah.
And being able to sort of cultivate that. But yeah, if you're told you're an introvert and you just hate interact, you just stay there an introvert.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because some people, you can't have that conversation of, I don't like small talk, I'm going to go deep. Or I don't want to have it. You can always have the conversation. Yeah. But it's so much easier to just say, yeah, sorry, I'm an introvert. I'm going to go to bed. Because they've already given me the label. So I'm just going to accept the label, manipulate the label, and I'm going to accept it for, I get to go to bed at 9. You guys stay up by the fire until midnight. That's great.
And it's not just psychological labels, which are dangerous. It's also like political ideology. Oh my gosh. Theory, like you can predict all of this stuff. Like, so some people will have a reaction to whether it's this side or that side of the fence. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they said this. Okay, you just now revealed a lot of your cards, right? So I believe that the most effective way to live life is to sort of put it all out there. Because then you can't manipulate anything. I'm telling you it. I'm controlling my own narrative. So what do you want to know? I'll tell you.
Yeah.
It's just easier.
Well, look at the labels the vaccinations put on people. I mean, even my grandmother, she's 88 years old. She's an amazing human. But we chose with our third child to have a home birth. And our daughter hasn't been vaccinated. And my grandma's like up in arms, like beside herself. And so I just play the game because it's kind of fun to pick on your 88-year-old grandma. The other day she was at the house, and our daughter, who's like 5 months old, she's got a little cold. And I'm like, I bet you. I'm like, Grandma, you think if she was vaccinated, she would have gotten a cold?
Yeah.
She's like, absolutely not. She would have never gotten a cold. I'm like, okay, were you vaccinated? Yeah. I'm like, didn't you just have a cold? Well, that was pneumonia.
Yeah,
I was never vaccinated for. I'm like, oh, okay, that's an interesting perspective. Like, that's fun.
But that's the problem is once the labels are so deeply believed, they're very hard to shake. So the funny thing is in our program, when I screen people, I screen for that. So if they're too label focused, I have to have a conversation about the labels before letting them in, because this program is going to trigger you, because I'm getting you to re-examine your labels and really think through reality and what's going on and what's not. And at a much deeper level, they're all just like human constructs. Like the word introvert was created and then agreed upon. It's just, so I like to think of human behavior as a series of patterns, and we give that pattern language, and then that language becomes our reality. And sometimes that language limits the reality that we want to have in life.
So when you're thinking through nonverbal, right? That's you're a master at that. You've studied thousands and thousands of hours of it. How do people use nonverbal to manipulate the outcomes they want?
Usually from the area of like diminish and amplification. So like nonverbal behavior amplifies the meaning of something, or it can diminish the meaning of something. So if you don't have good control or grasp of your own physicality, you're just sitting inside of a box. I think, so for example, let's say you have one person who's aware of their face, aware of their movement, aware of their body, can move it, move their voice, all that. And you have another person who can't. And both of them can see the themes and stuff that you're talking about. The person who can manipulate it and control their behavior has infinitely more wiggle room in social dynamics than the person that just sees it. So I think that it's all about crafting alignment and amplifying your message. It's a truly a set of people skills and people tools. And reading behavior is a people tool. But reading behavior is so everybody thinks, I have such a frustration with this. A lot of these, I'll just be honest, like a lot of these biolanguage people they just make shit up. And he's just like, oh, like this is covering your neck, and it's like there's no actual evidence to support that. They commit what I call narrative negligence, where they just spin a narrative around behavior. But the truth is, we're all doing that every single second. So most people think that reading behavior at a deeper level is about like, oh, what does this behavior mean? It doesn't mean anything. None of it means anything. What you need to understand is your own filter, your own bias, your own perceptions. Then you need to understand the other person. Then you need to create a more robust vocabulary for describing behavior. It's just a really robust process. And it's why the people that are really good at this can't even reverse engineer it because it's so complex. And that's kind of what I'm more interested in. Like, I wish life was about, there was like 3 things that people did when they were uncomfortable. It would make life a hell of a lot easier. It's just not like that, though. And if you approach that, you're going to oversimplify connection and interaction, and you're probably going to cause more suffering to yourself and others than you think you are.
So when you were working with poker players, you still work with poker players. You weren't necessarily helping them read others. You were helping them understand their tells, or what?
So my poker career is like really weird. So like I play poker. I realized that playing poker doesn't scale. Back to that story, I didn't realize this was actually a podcast, but back to that story, those people said, Blake, you should probably teach poker. I opened up a thing called School of Cards, which was the first brick and mortar poker school in the country, like the first physical location
in New
for
York?
poker in New York.
Nice.
So I had people come in literally teaching them the difference between a straight and a flush and all that stuff. And I'm learning online, not doing that well online because I wasn't that great, but playing live and crushing. So it's kind of this humbling experience where I couldn't beat 100 NL for those you poker players. It's like a low stakes, but I was playing like 5,100. So live and destroying, because it was a competitive advantage. My skill set was just so much higher than the people that I were playing with. And then I did School Cards. In School Cards, we had like physical classes in person. So Introduction to Poker, and a class called Profitable No Limit Hold'em, which was a 21-hour course in the weekends. And I would teach those courses. And then Black Friday happened, which was a big thing in poker, where online poker got banned, and a lot of people that were struggling, that were really good online, were struggling live, and I got a reputation. They're like, Blake can help you figure this. He knows both worlds. So just like helping players adjust. And then I got the idea for the study Beyond Tells. It was supposed to only take 3 months. It ended up taking 12 years. And that's kind of where I was known as like the expert in teaching poker players how to read other poker players. So it's both. right now, most of my work is, we have programs and stuff like that. But most of my work is like opposition research. So like a player is going to go play with these 20 players. I go in and my team pulls every video and we build like a database of tells and reads on that specific player. Then we also do this for the actual helping people reduce and helping people sort of find an edge in others.
So you actually study the competition, study the human, and then give them a competitive advantage when they go play the game.
Like a full behavioral breakdown of like, when you see these clusters of things, when you see this happen, when you see this happen, and then the harder part is not the research, it's integrating the research. So getting them to actually see these things, it takes different time for different players. But this is the highest stake. These are like the biggest games in poker.
But the study was only supposed to take 3 months. Take 12 years.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I'm a weirdo and a perfectionist and obsessive. And I ended up doing 3 studies. So we did a first study, then we did a second. First study was like 2000 and I don't even know. The second one I remember was 2016. The third one was 2022. It's cool though. Like when we did the study, people don't understand. Like a lot of these body language experts be like, "Oh, we study." They don't actually study. They just like take a couple videos and this. We literally counted every single time someone blinked. In the first between the first 2 studies, it was something like 675,000 blinks. So I had teams of 80 people in the Philippines. When everyone went like this, they clicked M on a keyboard. That cost alone like $175,000 to do the blink rate analysis. It didn't lead to much, which sucked.
It didn't?
Like blink rate was so. There are reasons why your blink rate changes. One's cognitive overload, emotion. There's dopaminergic pathways, just like all this complexity. The issue was you'd see the exact opposite thing in the same person. So one person would be like in a spot where they know that they're bluffing and they don't want the person to call, and you see a decrease in blink rate, and the other person you'd see the same thing. So it was relative to the person. It wasn't this global theme. We found a couple global themes, and the hands were the most useful part of the body. So like when I say when we looked at the hands, we like really looked at the hand. Every time someone checks their cards, that entire moment was analyzed. And I did that all by manual coding, which is a fucking nightmare.
You could do it all different now, right?
It's all AI. All my systems can handle. So put it this way, the study that I first did probably cost me like $400K to do all that. The second study I could probably do at $400K, and like we're talking about 6 to 8 months of work. Second one, a weekend.
Wow.
Because like blink rate, we have systems that can blink's easy. It's like the easiest thing to do on the face. Hands, super easy.
So what did you personally get out of that entire study?
I mean, the roughest periods in my life. IRS coming after me because of the mistakes that I made in that. I just didn't file taxes. I just like delayed it. And then they filed for me. Like, hey, you owe us a ton of money. See you in court. It was like my fire. I learned what it is to be a good business operator versus a good researcher versus a good product person. I think for the first time, it felt good to dedicate so much time and effort towards something and say like, I'm the expert on this, and not just say it theoretically, but be like, no one has more hours than me breaking down the behavior of poker players. Just no one out there. And then the feedback, I think I got validation. So when you first start this thing, like I'm coaching the people that I was watching on TV as a young kid, right? And like the people that I looked up to and are like, oh my God. So I'll tell one. So Phil Galfon's a very well-known poker player. He was like one of the people that reached out to me. At first, I was like, oh my God, Phil Galfon, like it's exciting. But you're not sure of your methods. You're not sure if it like really works. There's a little bit of that fear. But now after working with so many people over the years, like, okay, this works. And I've returned money in a lot of scenarios. The only thing that sucked though is in poker, I'm like in the background and no one knows about me. So when I work with top players, you get NDA'd. Nobody can know that I'm working with them.
Right.
Some are okay with me saying, but most of them aren't. Like, nope. And it felt kind of cool. Like, oh, I'd be on the rail at a WSP event and someone's like, why is Blake here? Like, he's working with someone. Like, that was kind of like a fun little thing. And I just learned how to be a better researcher, how to streamline processes. Like everything that I'm doing right now is from the shit show that those studies were, for sure. So I'm very grateful. Funny, on mushrooms once, first time I just took mushrooms, I started crying about poker.
You cried.
I cried with Molly. I was like, I've been mean to you, poker. Thank you so much. Because I had and then a lot of stuff came up too for me personally, where it's like, I went from playing poker and feeling like a professional because I'm making money playing poker to being a poker operator and a business person.
Right.
And it's kind of the inauthenticity of like coaching, but not doing it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that made me a little bit, maybe not want to like push things out as quick as possible. This is all the shit that you deal with entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, it's just so many things slow you down or speed you up.
Do you still play poker or you don't play?
Main event, WSOP, I'll go play here and there. I do have a little bit of a challenge over the next 2 years. I want to get to like $1 million in tournament earnings because it looks good for the business people.
I see.
Just to be brutally honest,
Yeah.
the cowards. So the thing about poker that most people don't really understand is like in the tournament field or even in cash games, like you don't know how much money it took me to make $1 million.
Right.
Right. So I'll be honest right now, like in tournaments, I've only played 12 tournaments in my life. I have 200K in earnings and I probably have like 54K in buy-ins. So if you look at it, like pretty good return, right? But I can go out this month and this next couple of months, I can start blasting 100K. I get to 1.5 million and be like, yeah, no, I've made over 1.5 million in tournaments. And then it's like, how much have you bought in for? And I'm like, let's just not talk about that. Like
Right.
3 million to make the 1.5. So that's a lot of people don't get that. And they don't understand that all these top players, like they don't have 100% of themselves.
Right.
They sell pieces. So if somebody's playing like $1 million event, they don't buy in with $1 million of their own money. Some of them have like 10% of themselves.
Right. Right. And then people are sharing in the winnings.
Yeah.
Did you ever share in the winnings with your coaching and your program?
Yeah. So I have arrangements with players now where when I work with players, I sometimes get a percentage, like a free roll on their performance. 1%, 2%, 3%, depends on what it is. I sold in the tournaments that I played, I sold 20% of myself, so 80%, and I returned to friends and stuff like that. And then, I haven't been the most successful with poker investments, to be honest with you. Poker's a real world where you always want like what we call sweat, where it's like, oh yeah, this person's in this event and I could potentially win a lot. It's probably close to break even in staking right now, but you don't really do it for, I know I'm not going to make money. You do it to support players. You do it to get a piece. You do it to have fun. There's other benefits.
What is the coolest experience you've had from the poker world?
Oh, so many. It's so hard. Working and being respected by some of my idols.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing, I can't say, but like I had a call with one player who said really good things about it. I'm like, I can't believe I just spoke to them. Like, this is so cool. Like, I feel like I've made it. The final table at a WSOP event was really cool. And seeing how I handled loss. So I came in 4th place, and the guy who came in fifth smacked a chair. The guy came in 6th, was pretty cool. But I got up, hugged everybody, and said, "I wish you all the best." Shook them in the hand, looked them in the eyes, and walked away and was fine. I felt like that, not the 4th, but just how I handled losing, was because it's like a rare thing to get to a final table. So you always want to win. So much. Like, poker is just such a beautiful game. In my earlier times, being 20 and making like 8K in a night is like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then also what happens in poker is there's this like really weird thing when you move up in stakes, you diminish the money. So like at first when you play, it's like, oh, like $500 is a lot. And then 500 is nothing.
Yeah.
And then 10K is a lot. And then 10K is nothing. And you just keep sort of pushing that boundary. And I still want to play again. I still miss it. The only problem is people don't understand poker today. The technical gap between some of my clients and myself is insane. It used to not be insane back in the day. So when you're out of practice and you're competing at the highest levels, it's like Michael Jordan playing basketball. He's incredible, but then he just gains 30 pounds and doesn't play for 3 years and goes back and plays in the NBA. Is not going to be the same Jordan.
Right.
It's a similar kind of thing. So you just got to really pick your spots. I don't feel like I have a substantial edge in any of these games. The only thing is there's certain fields like the Triton field and the Poker Go field that I know I have a lot of information about the players because I spent so many hours watching them. But they're still technically so much better than I am right now. You got to, as part of being humble is like, oh, I'm not the best. It's like knowing how do I win in this lineup? I win by probably being tighter, not putting myself in really crazy spots, and using behavior to my best and my advantage.
And how do you parlay that into business, right? Because you're on this journey of entrepreneurship, and what I love about your story is you don't just focus on poker.
No.
You've taken this and gone so much bigger and so much wider. But how do you stay humble? How do you use that lesson to navigate business?
I think the thing about poker, so one of the things I noticed about the best poker players was really interesting, and the ones that I love the most, when they were on the table, they were kind of like, fuck this, I'm the best player here, these people all suck. When they were off the table, they're like, I need to get so much better. So in the performance mode, they had that confidence, but when they were off the table, they would critique, work, build, improve their game. I kind of view poker like that. Like, I don't believe in the concept of experts. I think expert is a label. People say it all the time, like, just don't say that for me. You're always on this path of like learning and growing and getting better. And if you don't continue that path, somebody will overtake you. So I saw this in poker where I was working with some of my clients and I was like, listen, man, I love you. We've been working together for like 3 years. You've made me a lot of money and I think you're one of the best. You do not have the work ethic anymore. I see what these other players are doing, what you're doing, and they're like, I know, man. I think totally fair. I'm like, you're going to be good for the next year or two. But if you don't stay up, I mean, you're talking about like the top 100 players in the world that constantly play with each other. At the end of the day, if I go to like a 5-10 game and I'll crush it, like it's just a gap. But that's how I always measure myself against the world's best. And it makes you feel humbled.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like people and performances and interactions, you ever like being around greatness just humbles you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went to see Hans Zimmer live and I'm going to see him again here. It was just so incredible. It's just such a humbling experience. And it's inspiring to be great at your craft. And that's kind of what I think poker had me really see that. Like, you're never done. You're always improving. You're always trying to get better. You're always trying to craft out an edge. And the second you stop, not good.
How do you balance this desire for constant improvement with perfection, though? Because there's this like razor fine line.
It's really hard for me.
It's hard for you.
It's hard. Everything I release, I don't like. So if it's an Instagram video or my course, I'm like, oh, this needs to get improved. It's like a joke inside of the members of my course where it's like, dude, this is how much more perfect can you get? I think what I've had to deal with is understanding improvement within the constraints of a business. This is something I still struggle with. So it's like you look at a balance sheet and you're like, this is what the balance sheet's saying. This is what the business wants you to do. This is what Blake wants to do. So I always use that with all my coaching clients and my own stuff. I'm like, what does the business want? The business is this neutral entity. The business wants you to do this and just do this because that's where all the money comes from. But I want to be liked and seen and known as these things. So I've had to build constraints for myself and stick to the constraints. That's been the only thing that's helped me, because left alone to my own devices, I'll just go into perfection mode and try to improve and try to improve and try to improve and rationalize that this is the right thing to do. And it's very dangerous with 100% ownership, bootstrapped, entrepreneurial-led businesses.
Yeah, because you'd have like the greatest product that never gets launched.
Exactly.
And so then how do you find joy and happiness in the journey?
From the impact of others is the biggest one. When someone says, I 6 months into a program, I went to a dinner, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't anxious. I was like, oh my God, that feels so good. And then also just the flow states that come from creation. So like when I'm writing and I'm really deep in it, I just feel like, wow, I feel so alive. Those two things, other people and the flow states.
And you're working on a technology that arguably could change how we interact as humans, right?
Yeah.
And we've talked about this in the past offline. What are you most excited about the project you're working on?
It's the most difficult thing I've ever undertaken in my entire life. Everything else is a joke compared to this. And what I'm really excited about is like I'm building a thesis that's predicated on other stuff, in the sense that like it's like these lines that need to intersect. So I'm like making this game that, okay, in 4 to 5 years, I'm going to be positioned to be in this area that's a complete game changer. And the truth is, even if I don't, I'm learning so much along the way. And there's scraps. I think about business a lot. I'm not one of those people that's like, we're either going to build a $100 billion company or we're going to fail. I'm like, all right, we have a big vision, but on the way, if this doesn't work, so there's enough scraps in that to really make it worth it. But yeah, I've just never dealt with something so inherently complex, which is really like exciting and challenging and gets your brain moving in different ways.
Would you say you're happy?
Oh yeah, I'm probably happier now than I've ever been in my life. I mean, it wasn't happening in my 20s. I wasn't happy in my early 30s. I think, COVID changed for me. COVID changed everything for me. When COVID happened, I was one of those entrepreneurs that would make 100K and spend 200 a month. Like I was always like, X comes in, put it all of that towards growth, and then go into debt. And then during COVID, we lost like our entire business like overnight. And it was the most freeing thing ever because then it was just back to me. So my team was like, yeah, you're not going to be able to pay us. And I never had the heart to like let people go or anything like that. So everybody just sort of did their own thing. I was on my own. And for the first time, I'm like, I'm rich. Like
Yeah.
I made 30K this month and that's all my money. And I was able to rebuild myself and get back into just a better mindset and do like a retro on like what went right and what went wrong in the business. Because there's like a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I'm a 7-figure. Like the whole joke is when I was making 7 figures, I was the brokest in my life. When I was making 7 figures, like,
Right.
oh my God, like this. And then literally 3 years later, I don't make 7 figures. I make 6 figures, but it's all mine.
Yeah.
What a different thing. And it's less stressful and it's less this. And I really just believe that you just gotta suffer. And there's something about the fire that like, what is that? Like fire strengthens the metal or whatever.
Mhm.
I really believe in that. Like I'm a good writer because I needed to write emails to survive. Like I couldn't pay my rent without writing emails. That's why I'm a good writer. Like people are like, how do you write an email in 10 minutes? And I'm like, well, I couldn't eat without emails. So that's how so you just learn that. Yeah, the truth is at the end of the day, I really only learn from failure. I feel like I conceptually learn, but I don't change my behavior unless I fail. And that's been there's a lot of failure back then.
Do you think that's true of all humans?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty big thing. That's why you just gotta. And sometimes you don't know. People say like I'm on the ground floor. You don't fucking know the ground floor.
Mm-mm.
Like there's like ground floor, and then there's ground floor, and then there's ground floor. And then like I was saying before, like when my dad had ALS, I was like, oh, this is ground floor. Like you're gonna be dead in 2 years. You can't move your body. You're gonna be a vegetable. Like this is about as low as you can get. And then I think about it, I was like, no, maybe having this in a war zone.
Yeah.
And like, oh, maybe having this in a war zone and being tortured. Like there's always somebody going through something considerably worse than you. And I just feel like, I'll be honest, I feel disgusted with myself when I'm not happy.
When you're not happy.
Yeah, I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? You have this whole, like, you're safe. You have this whole thing. I do this thing every night when I like get into my bed, and it's our beds because of Molly is always like super cold. So I get into the cold bed, and it's always like jarring at first, and then I just like sit in the things, and I'm like, this is such a cool life.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I've had so much opportunity. I've had so much things work for me. Yeah, like it's gross. Like there's people going through so many other stuff, and I want to be a leader for them, and I want to help inspire those people. So no, and that really hit me with my dad dying. It just like hit me at a core where it's just I get reminded of it so much.
And you're aware of it. Most people get reminded of it so much, but they're not aware of it.
Yeah. No, I feel it. It's just a little bit like ugh.
Yeah.
I go like that, like ugh. I
Yeah.
got to do this thing. I was like, shut up.
Yeah.
You get to do this thing. You could have your head cut off right now. You could be shot in the head. Like it's like an extreme perspective, but like, and the truth is, my mother is the one who this was given to me by her. So from a very young age, my mom was always, what's the worst that could happen? My mom almost died. She had like a rare cancer, and she thought she was gonna never walk or die, and she at like 16.
Wow.
And it was removed, and she was fine. And I think that's what gave her that perspective. And that really bled on to me and my sister, because she's like that too. We both have that. And then my dad just like really spearheaded it. But it was 100% my parents.
Someday you have kids. How do you pass that on to kids?
I think about this a lot, man. We were sitting there with my wife, and I was like, it's so crazy. Like I think about the first house that I lived in, because we're talking about like I'm going to rent a new house, and it's like I am now that rich family. You know what I mean? Like I grew up middle class, like oh, they're rich. They have like all this food in their refrigerator and they have like a nanny and it's like now we're that. And I think about those kids that were some of them complete assholes. Like how, yeah, I really struggle with that. One of the things I thought about was this concept of an earned trust. So like whatever money I have, it's like they can unlock if they hit milestones. So it's like you have to have your own company, and once you hit 250K, I'll unlock 250K. But I want to create, but at the same time, I want to give my kid everything. We'll sit by your fire and have very long conversations about this, right? Like, and I've thought about my paranoia. Like I'm pretty paranoid. I'm always thinking about worst case scenario tactically. I don't get like, oh my God, but I think about it. And it's like, yeah, your kid needs to fall in order to not fall again. And what is it to build resilient children? And what does it build? By the end of the day, one thing I'm proud of though with kids, I have nothing about what my kids become. Isn't that interesting? I thought I would. I don't care. I really don't. Like I have my life. You want to be, I'd like them to be an entrepreneur. I'd have a hard understanding how they couldn't. But whatever they're going to do, they're going to do. I'm not like my kid needs to be a doctor or a lawyer. I don't even know what education's going to look like. I want the socialization in school, but like I want a curriculum that I could kind of not necessarily control, but have input on. It's we'll see. A lot of this is, we'll see. I mean, when I taught developmental psychology, I used to lead that class with how many of you are parents, and half the room would raise their hand. I mean, listen, everything I'm saying is just a culmination of research. I don't know. I know the studies say this about hitting your kids. I don't know. So don't come at me with your own personal type of things. Although there's one cool thing I used to always do. I go, how many of you, I would get so canceled if people saw my classes because the shit that I did. But I was like, how many of you were hit when you were a child? 80%. I'm teaching at a city university, right? 80% of the room raise your hand. I'm like, okay. I was like, keep your hands up. How many of you did it stop the behavior? And they're all like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, this one kid tells a story. He's like, comes home, hi, mom beats the shit out of him. What do you do next? Well, I'll go to my cousin's house. I get Vaseline. I get all this stuff to avoid the behavior. I was like, that's what some of the research will suggest about punishment. You're not going to learn from the people. So like trying to explore that type of stuff. But yeah, I'm going to be in my own discourse. I think it'll be a great chapter. I think, we were very back and forth about whether or not we wanted to have kids. We still are to some respect. But
I still am too, by the way, with 3.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's a lot of freedom. Me and my wife can go anywhere and do whatever. But at the end of the day, I think I don't optimize my life for happiness. Everybody's always saying that, like studies on like happiness and I was like, it's not really what I want. I think I want to experience like everything. And how could I not experience the soul function of human beings? Like what? Like I'm going to avoid that.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it'd be nice to have a little kid and teach them and go through all that stuff and deal with that. And I'm excited about it.
So the science says hitting your kid doesn't create the behavioral change you desire.
Yeah, I'm not so up to date with it. This is like 10 years ago. But from my rudimentary understanding of this, it's like when you hit a kid, and there's different levels of abuse. But when you hit a kid, it's very unlikely that you're going to learn from the stimulus that has caused like aggression towards you. So the moment very rarely is like, oh, I was beat and my mom loves me. It just doesn't make sense. And also, our society has changed. We're not, I don't know, maybe if this was like the 1800s, I'd want to beat my kids so they're tougher and they could handle themselves. We don't live in that society anymore. And if you create more violence, you're probably more prone to a kid having a bigger issue. It's just such a loaded. It's so hard for me because I believe in both men and women being able to handle themselves, and being able to have some defensive capacity. Even though like most of the training, like you really got to like get hit to really know what it's like to do that. But yeah, I know this. I would never hit my kid. That's not going to happen. I'm just not going to. I don't think it's an effective method. I'm not going to lose my cool. My kids are not going to get hit. I don't even know if my kids are going to get punished. I was never really punished. My wife was never punished. It just didn't work.
No.
I mean, at 4 years old, I I kicked someone and my mom was like, no Ninja Turtles for you. And my answer was, I don't like Ninja Turtles anymore, so I don't care.
Yeah.
She was just like, ugh.
That's my daughter.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
daughter.
So it's not gonna. It doesn't really work. Like sometimes you say to a kid, "Okay, don't do that," or you're grounded, and you ground them, and it works. And other kids are like, "Yeah, grounded, whatever. I'm gonna go do it." I'll tell you one thing. One thing I loved is that my mom created a space for me that no matter what happened in my life, I could go home to my mom. So if I did something, let's say I like killed somebody, the first person I go to is my mother, and like my house was the house where everybody hanged out. So like all my friends came over to my space, and my mom. I remember my mom saying to me, "Listen, when you want to do drugs, when the time comes where you want to smoke or you want to drink, fine, you'll do it at home with me and your dad. We'll get it for you, and we'll do it." And because she gave me that permission, I never was peer pressured because like, oh, I got to smoke at home, you know, and things like that. My parents were fucking phenomenal. Especially when you work with people and you go down all their trauma and stuff. I had none of that. Like none of that deep. Like they were just really, really great. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money. They were, but they were just loving and supportive, and I had all my needs met. It was great.
With being data driven, which you are, I am. How do you balance this desire for data, research, science with an understanding that most of the data, from my perspective, is flawed?
Yeah. So that's a long discussion. I don't say I'm data driven. I say I'm data guided.
Data guided.
So I don't listen to data. So all right, I'll tell you a story. When I was in graduate school, I was research is pure and so excited about setting up studies. I got to look up this guy's name because I've told the story a couple times. But I had a professor that was like advanced statistics, advanced methods in SPSS. That was like the tool you used. And he, at the time, was the head of data analysis at the MTA. He's a big guy, big brother. And I walk up to him and I said to him, I'm like, hey, I have a question about a data set, right? And I show him this data set. And he goes, what do you want it to show? And I'm like, well, significance, so I can say it. And he, in 7 minutes, manipulated my data set to show exactly what I wanted to say. And he turned it around and goes, here you go. And I remember what he did. He used like a factor analysis to group data. He did all this stuff. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, this is what everybody... And he's like, yeah, welcome to the game. Like welcome to the game, brother.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my God. And then when you actually do research... Those people that talk about being science, they don't actually do research. They've never done it in their life. They don't understand experimental design. They don't understand the games. So you start to see like, I can make a data set see anything. Classic example. If you go look around companies that do like satisfaction stuff, like 97% of people liked our product. What they do is they use a Likert scale from 1 to 10, and they define like being 6 and above and not liked being 4 and below, and 5 data gets washed if it's neutral. And then they say 97% of people liked our event, even though a 6 is not liked. It's a standard marketing practice that people use with NPS scores. And the problem is the research is pure often because the people doing the study say this stuff, but people don't read that. They just, I've heard people cite studies in my field. And like, that was a study from the University of Washington done on 7 college freshmen, and you're telling everybody that they should do that because of that. Are you absolutely crazy? And then you just understand how to manipulate. Once you really understand how to manipulate data, you got to be careful, right? And that's so. I have a very, I try to balance myself with like. There's usually inclination of like I don't want to see something. That's what I put on the forefront. So it's like I don't want to see these numbers. Those are the numbers that I need to see, and I'm there's no way out of it. I'm biased in my own sort of directions for sure, but you become more aware of it once you've done the work and sort of seen how the sausage is made. You start to understand, and there's a lot of difference between like research in theoretical physics versus research in biology, where it's like okay, it's either happening or not. Human behavior research, it's not that good. Like that's the thing that people don't really want to talk about. It's just like we have a replication crisis in psychology. We have the fact that a large percentage of our population are done on like white males, 18 to 21, because that's the college. Like there's a lot of stuff there. That's why if you ever hear like something like 33% of humans, it's bullshit. That's just the best way to say it.
Yeah.
93% of communication is nonverbal. Nope, never was. Like all of those things. 66% of the time somebody's going to do this. Nope, 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 nope. It's how you know it's bullshit.
It's just looking for like the big flag in the ground saying, here's what the number
Yeah,
is.
and you talk to these experts, and like somebody is a quote unquote expert in my opinion when they have depth beyond what the thing is that you're talking about. So like if somebody says like, Blake, tell me why 93% of communication is not nonverbal. I could go into the original study, who did it, why, start talking. But sometimes people just like quote things, and you're like, do you know the problems of that study, or do you know why it worked or why it didn't work? And they can't answer with any articulation. It's like a warning sign that their knowledge is sort of capped and it's surfacey and it's more performative, and they don't really have a deep understanding.
So taking into this concept of a deep understanding, where in your life are you most flirting with disaster?
I mean, it's probably always finances. Just always. I'm still so risky. I still have my risk tolerance. Like I have no problem going broke. Like it doesn't fear me. It doesn't fear me. I'm not afraid of it. Yeah.
It doesn't fear you either.
It doesn't fear you either. Yeah. I would say always finances. I'm always like trending towards that line where, okay, like, I'm way more responsible than I used to be. So I'll tell you a funny story. So during COVID, a friend calls me and he's like, hey man, don't take this personally, but I'd like you to talk to my team. And I was like, what personally? He's like, you're the only entrepreneur I know that has lived financially day to day and week to week for so long. And my team is really concerned about this COVID. Can you talk about some mental strategies? And I like Dark Knight Rises is one of my favorite themes. Mm-hmm. So when Bane, when he turns off the lights and he's like, oh, I was born in the darkness. I think about that like debt and financial problems. I'm like, oh, this is every day. So I get on the Zoom call with them and I'm like, all right, so like the first thing with all this stuff is establishing the reality. And I was like, what's your reality? I was like, oh, well, we have like 16 months. No problem.
You're good.
We have like 16 months of cash. And I was like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, call me when it's 2 months. And it was so funny just by me discussing all of the crazy shit that I did and how I made it out. I'm like, 16 months, you've got tons of time. Everybody else started feeling better. But that's a great question. And it's finances. And I could do a better job at, when that'll change? The second Molly gets pregnant.
Yeah.
Because then it's protecting that kid.
Yeah.
But until then, I'm unlikely to change.
Yeah, you're okay with the
I'm okay with the risk. Yeah.
Because you know where you can end up, and you know where Molly's not going to leave you if you don't have any money.
Exactly. I mean, she was with me in every up and down. Yeah. I mean, we built together. Yeah.
So people listening to this want to follow your journey. They want to follow your story. They want to read your book that's going to come out hopefully in the next 12 months. Where do they find you? Where do they follow you?
Now, because of the last thing. So just for context, Matt said he knew I had a problem with self-promotion on my website because the way I said it, and he was 100% right because it's not fully dialed in. But nonverbalgroup.com/newsletter. Enter in that newsletter. I send a newsletter every Monday for the past like 5 years, and I update everything. And then Blake_Eastman on Instagram, which will be more personal, and then Blake Eastman on LinkedIn, which will be more professional.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great
Thanks
questions.
for the conversation.